Association.
Excellent. Well, Tasha, thanks so much for arranging this and also pushing this out to your membership. Greatly appreciate it. My name is Chris Zannetos. I come from the cybersecurity tech world. I've started 3 software and cybersecurity companies, including one company which helped build up and create the identity and access management world for those who are in that part of the cybersecurity spectrum. And along the way, learned an awful lot of things. Learned how hard it was to find great talent. Um, saw actually that there might be some opportunities to find some new talent out there, and that's what in part led me to create STEMatch and create the program, which I'll get into in a little bit. But let me hand over to Roger Alix-Gaudreau, um, uh, VP of Software Engineering at Tripadvisor. Let him introduce himself, a little bit of his background. He'll pop in later to share his perspective of the program. Roger?
Thanks, Chris. So as Chris said, I'm Roger Alix-Gaudreau. I am a Vice President of Engineering here at Tripadvisor. I've been here coming up on 10 years. I've been in software engineering professionally for 30 plus. I don't like to count anymore. It's been far too long. And in my role here, one of the things I've become very focused on is reinvigorating sort of our junior talent pipelines and supporting non-traditional pathways into engineering jobs. Prior to the pandemic, we had we did every summer a big summer internship program. We did co-ops with local universities, and then in the wake of the pandemic, that sort of dropped off, and now we're at a point where we want to resume that. And personally, I'm something of a non-traditional engineer myself. I came into engineering from being a restaurant manager. I tinkered a little bit on the side, got a QA job, and then after working in software for a few years, then I went and got my 4-year degree. So I am a firm believer that while a 4-year degree does help in a lot of ways, it's not a strict requirement. There are a lot of people very capable of doing this kind of work who come from non-traditional backgrounds, and then that's how I got connected with Chris, via some other stuff that we were doing, Tripadvisor and STEMatch, and we've had a chance to work together on this. We did one cohort last year and have another one coming this year.
Fantastic. Thanks, Roger. We'll get back to Roger to share, excuse me, in greater detail his experience and thoughts about the strengths and the challenges, perhaps, of this sort of program. I'm sure he'll be very direct. So again, thank you all who are here live, and of course those who are going to be watching this after the fact. Greatly appreciate your engagement on this. Again, I am the founder of STEMatch, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. Our focus is on how we can create sustainable, value-delivering partnerships between companies and schools in a way to make the STEM world, STEM education and tech jobs, accessible to people from lower income communities and underserved communities who are woefully underrepresented in the tech world and who face many, many challenges to get there. And before I get into the program, I just want to share a little bit of larger perspective. And I think I would suspect that those of you down in Maryland, we're up in Massachusetts at the moment, but down in Maryland, I would assume that you see this probably even more so than we. There's a tremendous mismatch of supply and demand for really important tech jobs. Perennially, we see hundreds of thousands of open positions in software development and IT support and cybersecurity, especially. I view this, coming from the cybersecurity world, I view this as a national security issue. I view this as a company and state competitiveness issue. And it's also an opportunity issue. We are educating, a tenth of the tech-ready workforce, or even only 5% of the tech-ready workforce of our competing countries out there, India and China. And that's just not sustainable. Of course, we let some people in from other countries to immigrate here for these jobs, but not a lot. So this is something that I view as a huge issue for national security, and then also for our companies. I know with one of my own companies, I ended up hiring half my engineering staff in India, not because of cost, because in the end, the cost savings weren't all that great. It was really because of availability. I had to hire 40 software engineers in 1 month. I flat out couldn't do that in Massachusetts at the time. And and it should be noted that every tech job we create in the United States creates an additional 3.5 jobs in support of that tech job in all the other parts of the services industry in supporting that person in that job. So this is a huge issue. Now, also for company competitiveness, as I noted, and we all know this, the cost of cybersecurity professionals going through the roof, right? We're going to see the same sort of issues that we've seen in software development. For companies to be competitive, we've got to start being creative. And then, of course, finally, there's the opportunity issue. And the reality is that the vast majority of cybersecurity jobs require, and I'll put that in air quotes, require a 4-year college degree. And what that means is that people who live in rural communities, people who live in lower income communities, minority communities are far less likely to get into cybersecurity because they're far less likely to attain a 4-year degree. Many folks, particularly in the lower income and rural communities, it's not just the cost of the college, the tuition, it's the cost of being out of the workforce for 4 years. Folks are already working to support their families and cannot take those 4 years. So, and I'm going to share some slides here briefly before we get to Roger. So, a few years ago, let me share these slides here. A few years ago, I formalized STEMatch as a nonprofit, and we started an experiment, which I'll share in a moment, to try to figure out if we could create a new pipeline, tap an untapped part of our population to create a valid pipeline of tech-ready workers. And I brought together tech executives from tech delivery companies like IBM and Mimecast, Carbon Black, but also tech executives from tech using organizations like State Street Bank and Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. And we asked ourselves, all of us, we all require a 4-year college degree for our security positions. Can we succeed with community college students, people who get 2 years of focused cybersecurity training in community colleges? So we went off and partnered with a local community college here in Massachusetts, and we evaluated their curriculum, which in the end we found to be quite strong. There were areas where we wanted them to improve and to expand and to sort of modernize a couple of areas, but in general, the curriculum was quite strong. We then interviewed the students, and we created a work skills assessment that we put them through, but also put professionals already in cybersecurity positions through to compare them. In fact, then we were planning to then move them into internships for further evaluation, but we hit the pandemic, and unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. Now, our conclusion after all of this was that the students were not ready to succeed in the entry-level positions that we required a 4-year degree for. But if we could find a way to get them additional professional capital to understand how this part of the world works, if we could provide additional training in very focused work skills areas where they hadn't had the time or opportunity to develop their skills the way a 4-year college student does, and if we could provide them with internship experience, they would be prepared to succeed in those entry-level positions. And I want to take a moment to pause on the internship side. I'll tell you, my companies, and I know most companies, we look for rising juniors, rising seniors in four-year colleges to bring in for internships. And why do we do this? We do it because we want to get something useful done, not mission critical, but useful. And we want to get this view into early career talent, and maybe we can get our hands on them before anyone else finds them and not let go, right? Well, what do you call a rising junior at a community college? They're called a graduate, right? So these students graduate without one of the key elements that we see as necessary for being able to succeed in a job. So we took all of these learnings and we've turned this into a program. We work with college programs that we evaluate to be strong enough, two-year college programs, community colleges. Currently, we have 6 partners in Massachusetts that we're working with. On top of this, we add 14 plus hours of work skills seminars that are built by tech execs and delivered by tech execs. So these are the things that we have seen that are necessary for building up the experience and the skills of these community college students. On top of that, we start working with our company partners like Tripadvisor to provide light lift career mentoring focused on professional capital issues only, not technology mentoring. This is 1 to 2 hours a month for a few months, very light lift. On top of that, our company partners provide paid internships, co-ops, apprenticeship opportunities. We don't guarantee the students that they'll get these positions. We tell them they have to compete for them, hence the name of the program. We're going to do everything in our power to get them the opportunity to build the skills and experience necessary, but they, in the end, have to earn and win these internships. And then finally, at the end of the program, we ask our partners to re-interview the students and assess their hireability. So we interviewed them at the beginning and assess their hireability. We interview them at the end, and it gives us a great amount of data to not only refine the program, but also get back to the students for them to understand as they get ready to graduate what they need to do to successfully gain and execute their first job in tech. And I should note that we require the students to be at least 50% along the way towards their degree in this program. And last year, for example, we were at 84% completion. We haven't yet calculated that for our current cohort, which we just finalized over the past few weeks. In the end, what this does is it delivers qualified, job-ready, entry-level candidates for hire. Now, STEMatch, as I mentioned, is a nonprofit. We provide the glue. We bring together the execs to evaluate the programs. We evaluate the students and identify the cohort. We had 142 interested students this year, ended up in a cohort of 44. We drive the design, the development, the execution of the work skill seminars with tech executives, and then we manage all the interaction and provide services to ensure that the students' ability to succeed with their mentoring and their internships. So to date, as I mentioned, we work with 6 community and 1 to 2 year minority serving colleges in the Massachusetts area in eastern and northern Massachusetts. We've worked and are working with some great companies in all sorts of industries, software organizations, financial institutions, health services organizations, laser manufacturers, et cetera. Really excited to have many of them repeat. Tripadvisor, as Roger noted, participated last year with 4 interns, participating again this year with 6. We're also excited to bring on new partners. We brought on most recently, Draper Labs in Massachusetts, which those in the DoD world will recognize that typically hires rocket scientists, PhDs from MIT, and they are looking to bring on 5 interns this year as they look for an alternative talent pipeline. In the end, to date, we've had over 100 students in our 3 cohorts post-pilot. We focus not just in cybersecurity, but software development, IT support, and electrical engineering, all areas where there's a supply-demand mismatch in the United States. Um, our company partners have identified that 92% of the interns have been successful and are hireable, meet the hireability uh, uh, threshold. So, so far, we've been able to show that these students, I should say, these students have been able to show um, that they have the capabilities, the skills, and the ambition and drive to succeed. Now, a couple of things I should also mention about community college students for those who aren't familiar with community colleges and their students is that they are workers. 80+% of them work while they're going to school. The majority of those actually work full time. So there is an opportunity not only to build this as an early stage pipeline for interns that then turn into over time turn into employees. Some of these folks, if our partners see the value in them, can be turned into full-time employees immediately as they finish up their degree because they are already working. It's a bit of a superpower for them. In the end, what this does is create for us in the business side of this, right? A new way to find qualified tech talent, a new untapped pipeline, tens of thousands. You might even, if you look at the numbers, it's actually over 100,000 per year here in the United States in the community college systems. It helps us build a more complete and diverse team. Not only do we not have the positions lingering open and unfilled, we're able to bring in people with varied backgrounds that can help us with stronger decision making. And finally, there is an altruistic aspect to this. Certainly, we feel good in driving opportunities and making them available to people for whom it's not typically available. But ultimately, what we're doing here is creating a job ready talent pipeline that can be supplemental to the current pipelines and not be viewed as non traditional, become part of the traditional hiring process. So I want to again thank the Cybersecurity Association Maryland for giving us an opportunity to talk with you and engage and start this discussion. We view this very much as a start for exploring whether this is an appropriate program to bring to Maryland, particularly focusing on cybersecurity. And I certainly look forward to the questions as we move forward and finish up our program today. I do want to quickly hand off to Roger so that he can share his perspective. Excuse me. I apologize. I think we're running a little bit late, but we did start late. But let me hand to Roger without any further comments from me to share his perspective.
Thanks, Chris. And I normally tend to wax vociferous. I'll keep my comments short given time. So I will say that our experience partnering with STEMatch on this was unequivocally positive. We had a bunch of great candidates. We selected a subset. We actually had 5, Chris, not 4. But we had 3 software engineers and 2 IT interns last year. And Chris commented on how a lot of the mentorship ahead of the interview and internship part, working portion of the internship is focused on work skills, on communication skills, on capital and things like that. So it was clear to us in the before and after how the students got better at understanding what it means to communicate professionally and be in a professional environment. Simple things like showing up on time, and actually responding to emails in a timely manner and things like that. Acknowledging, these young folk are working full-time jobs as well. I myself worked full-time while going to college, so I totally get it. And they were enthusiastic. They were clear communicators. They were clearly invested in their success and in the opportunity. Once they came on board, they were absolutely fantastic. Every single one of the interns we had from STEMatch had real impact, worked really hard, were dedicated. They wrapped their heads around what we asked them to do. They onboarded quickly. They ramped up. They learned, and they contributed real and meaningful value to the organization. As Chris said, not critical path, but useful. And at least one of our interns actually published a new feature on our website as a result of his project. And to the point Chris made about hireability, our IT team extended an offer to one of our IT interns, and she's working for us now. And she's great. The team loves having her. So all in all, 100% positive experience. That's why we signed up again, for more interns this year. And honestly, I only went to 6 because of our own internal kind of capacity limitations with the way we're structured right now. 2026, maybe we'll go even bigger if we can get a little more support internally, just to help us with the mechanics, right, and the logistics of doing this as we restart our junior talent efforts. This is a key component of, as Chris said, giving back, right? And I'll also add, not only do our engineers appreciate the opportunity to kind of give back in the way that Chris said, it's a great opportunity for us to provide. We provide our engineers with a mentorship opportunity that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So new engineers, young managers, being able to work with an intern, mentor an intern, and help shape them is also a growth opportunity for our full-time staff who are working with these interns, which is great. Gives them additional experience and grows them for for a longer trajectory. So we benefit in multiple ways, and thus are very happy to support the STEMatch mission and continue to partner with Chris and his team. I'll stop there.
Roger, thanks. You were much more concise and focused than I was. Thank you. Unfortunately, you had more of the valuable stuff to add. Tasha, I want to ask you.
If you want me to, but sorry.
Well, I'm curious if anyone has any questions, and Tasha, if you might have any questions for Roger about the experience and how it might relate to your membership.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you both taking the time to talk about this really important program, and it's great to hear your perspective, Roger. I think software engineering. So we are the Cybersecurity Association, but obviously our cyber companies have a need larger than just cyber analysts. So it's great to hear how this has worked from a software engineering and IT desk and support as well. No, so I think you brought up a really interesting point, how many of these folks are already working full time. So how do they balance this internship experience, working full time, taking classes? Do you have any sense on how that works from the intern perspective?
So I'll say for our interns, in effect, we became their full-time employment. Right?
Sure.
They worked full-time for us over the summer.
Great.
And they may have maintained part-time work with their other companies, but I don't know for sure. They definitely, we did initially have to work a little bit as people were winding down their academic year and then getting ready to resume sort of at the far end. And right now, like I said, our IT intern, well, no longer an intern, our new IT member of our IT team, she works with her manager to coordinate work around class times and so on. Fundamentally, we have a firm belief in the value of flexibility in that regard here at Tripadvisor. So not only have we embraced remote and hybrid work, but even before then, we were very supportive of people needing to flex around real life events, right? And luckily, software engineering often, like, it's okay for people to do their work early in the morning or late in the evening, as long as overall the team effectively gets through their work and delivers, and makes their stakeholders happy. We generally don't care too much about exactly when that work happens. So that makes it very easy for us to support, the need for a student to be flexible around classes and things like that.
Awesome. And we're kind of leads really good lead into my next question about the internships. Were they hybrid? Maybe it sounds like perhaps, or were any of them fully remote, or how did that work?
So because all of our interns were local from the greater Boston area, it was more hybrid. The staff we had supporting them also all were close to our headquarters, and so tended to come in regularly anyway, not every day, but so it was and it's undeniable, particularly for young junior engineers like this, that face-to-face contact in person, working with your manager and your mentor, being able to walk 20 feet and ask a question, that is important to the success of young engineers, right? So we were very glad to have local support staff, local folks here at the office to be able to come in and spend time, in person. As you know, if the STEMatch program expands, geographically, I don't know, Chris, if you have thoughts on sort of remote association between an intern and a company, or if you would prefer to, place students with companies that are local to them. That'd be an interesting question to explore, I think.
So we actually we have had interns that have been fully remote for their organizations. When I say fully remote, they may have visited it at the beginning of the internship for a
Sure.
day, and then they were remote. And in fact, one of those interns has remained employed with the employer actually for 2 years as he's working to finish his degree. And as we all should mention, right, the path through a community college is not necessarily a straight line. It may
Sure.
take them 4 years because they're working, may take 4 years to get through and get their degree. And many of them, as you noted, they take a risk to often to quit their full-time jobs in the service industry. But we share with them and show them how important this experience is, the network and creating the relationships are, and they get it and they understand and are willing to take that risk for their career and their families.
Excellent. And did you have, was it a one-to-one match, would you say, Roger, during the internship with intern, supervisor, or how did that work well in your organization?
So the 3 software engineering interns was a one-to-one match between an intern and a manager. The managers obviously had other members on their team, but
Sure.
in the IT space, the 2 interns worked with one manager
Okay.
there. Everybody seems to have come away happy.
Good.
Yeah, and again, we've seen that vary. So the Federal Reserve, for example, is one of the organizations that brought in cybersecurity interns,
Mhm.
and they had one manager, multiple. They have one manager, multiple interns.
Sure.
And it's important to note that the mentoring can continue through the internship. And in many cases, they decide to continue it. And they're potentially mentoring someone in a different company. And actually,
Sure.
it provides a lot of value to the student to continue that relationship.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. Um,
Are there
see.
any other questions that we might answer?
Questions from the audience.
So I guess to be careful with everybody's time, maybe we should wrap up. But I
Yeah.
just want to reiterate. So the focus of this meeting is to sort of start a conversation. Um, we at STEMatch have been discussing with Cyber Maryland about bringing this model to Maryland, particularly, of course, focused on cybersecurity, given the high demand, particularly in Maryland,
Mhm.
for staff and for talent. And I hope that this will blossom for us to continue the conversations. And for those who are not only on but are viewing this as a recording, excuse me, please reach out to Tasha if you have interest to continue this conversation. It's a similar conversation we've been having with folks in Georgia, and we're looking to bring this model. We're now actually partially funded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to spread across Massachusetts, and we're looking to bring this nationwide. So hopefully we'll have that opportunity with you.
Awesome. There's one question in the chat that I think kind of goes back to the matching experience.
Yep.
So how does that process work when you're choosing? Do you choose who to interview? Do you interview? Yeah. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, for the organization, they sign up for interns in a particular discipline, whether it's cybersecurity or software. We will deliver all of the resumes for the
Okay.
students to the organization. They rank their students and their interest, and then we will set the interview list because we will guarantee to the students that they get multiple internship interviews, not necessarily the jobs. So we'll add a couple more to the list. So I
Got it.
think, Roger, if I'm not mistaken, we probably had, you had what, 3 software positions
Yeah.
last year? We probably had 8 or 10 students on your list, I
Yeah, I
think.
think that's right. I think that I also saw in the chat a question about, a choice between hybrid on-site or fully remote. And I think the answer is case by case. It depends on, what the individual company wants, what the, interns can do. We happen to be very open to any of those models.
And I will say, we encourage the students to take any and every opportunity to interview and to take an internship opportunity, because the value of that is so tremendous, and the amount they learn for each interview on how to be successful is tremendous. So we really urge them to take the risks, and if they're more interested in on-prem, but something's hybrid, take the risk to learn about it and potentially do the internship.
Great advice. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We're really excited to continue this conversation and to spread the good word of STEMatch with others. And I'm positive that we will find some great employer partners to bring on and bring this to Maryland.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Tasha, for your support for this. And Roger, again, thank you for sharing your experience. Greatly appreciate it.
Happy to help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great one.